Chapter 10, Bullying. Yeah, we went there. Peyton High was a welcome flurry of activity given the stillness that the morning had brought. I hadn't seen this many people since I left Toronto, even the pit stops through Quebec. Being the only high school in the area meant that every peer I could possibly have in this county was pouring into the red brick building as our bus was last in line for. New kids have an orientation class in the lobby first period, Jay mentioned, as he and Kylie extricated themselves from the bus seat. Just wait for Mr. Loxey in the foyer. He's the principal. Nice guy. Sarah started to move in lieu of getting out of the way in the morning monster. I followed Jay and slowly shuffled out of the bus. Jay, Kylie, and Sarah headed into the doors and up a large flight of stairs that doubled back twice before reaching the top floor of the school. A bronze map was bolted to the wall beside the office, and the school was the shape of a giant H, with an L-shaped wing pointed up from the top right-hand arm of the H, and a gym off the bottom. The office was just off the bottom left arm of the H, with a large open-air cafeteria between the two bottom halls. I could already tell classes were going to be in opposite sides and floors for this monstrosity of a school. I didn't even have my class schedule yet. My last school had been a 3-story L-shaped building, and it was easy to navigate. The bell rang, the halls began to empty, and besides the 2 other freshmen and myself waiting outside the office orientation, the 3 of us took turns finding things to look at on the walls and foyer. I wasn't sure, but I guess they weren't from parts of the province. They were from other parts of the province, or from halfway across the country like I was. The national anthem began to play over the intercom, and the 3 of us kind of stood there awkwardly, not really sure if we had to stand at attention like you do at class or not, mostly because we weren't in class and really not sure what else we should do otherwise. The principal came out after, and the song finished, and while the morning string of announcements began, he introduced himself. "You must be the new recruits," he said with a smile. "I'm your principal, Mr. Loxey. I've prepared your class schedules for you," he said, handing a stack of papers and our class planners. He was a tall man, crew-cut hair, wore gray dress pants, and a blue shirt and tie. If he wasn't in the military before becoming a principal, he sure looked like he fit in. A semi-permanent smile and a well-worn onto his face, he did look like the nice guy that Jay had said. "I've also organized a member of your student body from each of your homerooms to meet you here and to show you around for the first day. The first period is always a 15-minute homeroom with your class schedule to follow. We'll break for a 45-minute lunch at the quarter after 12, and during your time you're allowed off-campus for meals and free time. Tardiness will not be tolerated after the lunch bell, and the doors will get locked, so don't be late coming back. There's no dress code aside from anything vulgar or inflammatory racist being banned. The rest of the student expectations are the rules of the code of conduct included in your class schedule." He looked us over, beaming like a farmer must look over his crop. Yep, this guy was going to be a peach to deal with. I could just tell. After shaking our hands, the 3 of us took seats and we waited for our homeroom tour guides. The 2 freshmen were picked up by an extremely bubbly girl who hurt their ears by her volume and energy. I, however, was treated to something entirely different. A tall, and I want you to know that this kid had trouble avoiding tops of doorways tall, redhead kid in skinny jeans and a black polo shirt came down the stairs and wound the side of the main foyer. He was rail thin, almost wobbled as he walked, mostly due to the lack of mass along any of his limbs. I had never had to look up to anyone since about grade 7. My dad's genes kicked in, and I leveled off at about 5'11". And this kid, though, was easily 7 feet tall, apparently closer to 6 feet 5 inches. But no one could really reach up high enough to prove him wrong to say otherwise. "Are you the new kid?" he said, with a deep radio voice, one that didn't match his body or demeanor at all. "Yeah, that's me. Are you the homeroom tour guide?" I asked. "You betcha," he said with a wink and a finger gun. "My name's Sean Wickham." He put out his hand to shake. Pleasure to meet you." "Chris Weeks," I said, shaking the rail-like appendage. "Nice to meet you, too." "I'll show you the school first," Sean said, "and then bring you to your locker just before homeroom ends." We took a quick tour of the bottom level of the H-wing school before entering the L-wing near the end of the building, and then went up the stairs and reversed our trip. Sean would point out the facilities and add his own interpretations with each announcement. "That's the library," he said. "There are no good books there. Trust me, I've read them all. Shop class to the right if you plan on losing any fingers this semester, and a seniors-only bathroom. The freshmen are generally all on the main floor and don't come up here often, so we claim these ones for non-annoying prepubescent free dumps." He was really funny, even if he wasn't trying. We stopped the last few classrooms before where I think the stairs originally came down. We were a floor above the office and down the hall a bit. "Seniors get the closest homerooms to the office for some reason," he explained. "And lockers. Yours should be here," pointing to 258. "Your locker code will be in the book Loxey gave you. Mine's 3 down." "Cool. And homeroom?" "Right behind you," he said, pointing across the hall. I'm supposed to say if you need anything else from me, that you should ask all the stupid questions you like, but you seem like a rational, almost adult, and I'm generally too busy to find these days. Busy doing what? I asked. I couldn't think of what could keep a high schooler busier other than school. A barely noticeable but wicked smile formed on the lower lip for a nanosecond. Stuff. Catch around weeks, he said, and he dipped into the classroom in the end of the lockers. Our homeroom, as it were. The bell rang, and I rushed to find my locker combination in the book Loxie had given me. After finding it, I got the thing open on the first try and remembered how close it was to my 8th grade locker combination. A weird thing to remember, but enough of a distraction that I didn't notice the kids piling out of the rooms and heading to their classes. As I began organizing my locker, emptying my bag, I heard Sarah's voice. "Enjoy the tour, Chris?" she said, her locker being open right beside me. "Yeah, Sean's a hoot. The library sucks, apparently," I said. I don't know what I did to score a locker beside her, but I wasn't going to point it out. "Guess I missed homeroom." "You didn't miss much. The library doesn't suck," he said. "It's just not filled with computer programming books," she sarcastically sneered. "Sean's not a nerd. He's the nerd, and he has a refined, if not boring, taste in reading material. I'll show you the good stuff later." She smiled and leaned on her locker beside me, waiting for me to finish packing my books into my locker. Then something happened that still drives me insane to this day. The loudest sound on the roar of the hallway of kids was the crash of an open palm on a locker. And this crash happened right behind my head. And of all ways to scare a person, this lies just underneath needlessly bloody horror movies. I nearly jumped out of my skin and jostled the locker between me and Sarah. "Hey, Sarah, how'd your summer go?" a short, muscular guy with a discount death metal shirt and torn jeans said, his palm resting on the locker behind me. I backed up into the space and tried to let the two of them speak. "Fuck off, Tony," Sarah said blankly. Words cut through the busy air like a knife. I didn't know who this Tony guy was, but Sarah did not like him. "Hey, I don't need... no... Hey now, don't be mad just because I caught you flirting with the new kid," he said in the most desperate attempt of suave I've ever seen. "I said fuck off, Tony. None of us has time for your BS today or any time this year for that matter," Sarah continued. I moved a step out from between them, and the same hand that slapped the locker slammed my chest into the opening of my locker. My shoulders hit the sides and my neck bent, hitting the top shelf. And Tony was leaning on me to continue half of the unwanted conversation with Sarah. "The fuck is wrong with you?" Sarah said, not backing down from him. But she was cut short by a pair of hands grabbing Tony by the back of his shirt and nearly throwing him across the hall. It was Jay. The two of them squared off for a millisecond, and Jay smiling and pausing only to say, "What?" before Tony's would-be rage realized Jay was almost twice his size, and then backed off. "Pleasant as always, Sarah," Tony said, and Jay just stared at him until he walked away. "Tony Smith is an acquired taste of our high school, Chris, much like olives and sardines, quite salty," Jay explained. "But like most bullies, he's fairly cowardly in nature. Next time, punch him in the face and get the detention. He'll stop bugging you after that." It sure seemed like an airtight plan given Jay's frame and farm-bred muscles. "Sure sounds like prison rules," I joked, even given the circumstances and a complete lack of teachers to actually do anything about the altercation. "It is prison rules," Sarah said, and closed her locker, heading down to the opposite direction of Tony. "Sure is a loud prison," I said. "Volume is a cheap substitute for personality in this particular case," Sarah replied, calling out over her shoulder as she walked to class. "He's the worst. Like most animals, just keep your distance and you'll be fine." Jay and I traded glances, and I quickly found my schedule. Math class with Mr. Burberry, room 204, and I made my way out of the emptying halls. Bullying! Chapter 10. Hope you guys like it. Links in the description for the books. Go check it out.